And wouldn't it be great if, when God destroys the kingdom of Antichrist, which I think is one of the things we can look forward to, there's going to be an implosion of people actually getting right with God. And if you look at some of the things, you talk to American Roman Catholics, they don't care what the Pope says. They know he's a liberal and kind of crazy, but they still go along with the system. But a lot of them are getting their eyes open, particularly with the moral scandals that have been attached to the Church of Rome. So, okay, all that said, let's get into the text here. So this fourth beast could be something that extends to the end of time.
Is it on mute right now?
Is this on?
No, it's not.
That,
Are you broadcasting?
Yeah, it's on some.
now it's on. Okay. Oh, and it's on. Is that the speaker right here?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Ignore the little man behind the curtain. Okay, guys, that's me. All right. So I've got my voice now. So if you're watching at home, if you were wondering why there was no sound, because I hadn't hit the switch. Thank you, Nick. So, okay, so we don't have to worry about the Jesuits kicking in the doors. They didn't hear anything I just said for the last 10 minutes. So we come to chapter 8. This is a new vision, a little different, but relating to it. This is all building up. So now Daniel says, oh, by the way, I have study guides. Why don't we pass these out here? Would you do the honors there, young lady? A few left over. Make sure everybody gets one. And don't forget about Nick all the way in the back there. Now, if you get your study guide, you'll see that at the bottom of the study guide, after the questions, I give a little bit of a timeline. Daniel's vision was around the year 550 BC, so it was in the 6th century BC. All right, and then Alexander the Great's conquest took place a little more than 200 years later. Alexander was running around conquering kingdoms from 133 to 123 BC. And then after he died and his kingdom broke apart, there were several generations passed, and then Antiochus, who was called Antiochus Epiphanes, his reign was from 171 to 164, and it does seem that he's being talked about in this section. But what I want you to notice is that from Daniel's prophecy to the coming of Antiochus, it's almost 400 years. So it's not like Daniel gave this prophecy and then, within 2 weeks this guy was on the scene. This prophecy initially seems to cover quite a bit of time. So Daniel starts off in verse 1, and he says, in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me. So this is at the end of the Babylonian Empire. We're getting close to it. A vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. So he's saying, I have where it's all fours are off the ground. So photographic evidence. So this male goat is moving fast.
He could be real happy.
Pardon?
Maybe he's real happy.
Yeah. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Then he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moved with rage against him, attacked the ram, and broke his 2 horns. There was no power in the ram to withstand him, but he cast him down to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one that could deliver the ram from his hand. That's really a good symbolic description of when the Macedonian troops, Greek troops, because Alexander incorporated the army, his army had Greeks, actually had people from all over that realm. When they hit the Persian Empire, they hit it hard. They didn't have to hit it twice. Alexander conquered the Persian Empire, and there was no question. They knew they'd been conquered. Okay, he smashed it. Therefore, the male goat grew very great. Almost a tongue twister, huh? The male goat grew very great. But when he became strong, the large horn, which is Alexander himself probably, the large horn was broken, and in place of it 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. When Alexander died, his kingdom broke into 4 sections, and his 4 chief generals became kings over each one of those sections. You had the Seleucid kings, with later Antioch, you had the Ptolemies, and one was back up in the Macedonia area, and anyway, there were 4 of them. And I think I've told you last week that if we can trust history and the historians that have recounted Alexander's death, when he was on his deathbed and was asked who will become king now that looks like you're not going to survive, which one of your generals will be king, he said whoever's the strongest, which was not a good thing to say, because they were always fussing and fighting with each other for a long time. Generally, though, they got along. They just picked on everybody that they'd conquered. So they conquer that. The male goat, that horn is broken. 4 come up in its place toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came a little horn that grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land. Now, this is a different little horn than we had in the last chapter, I think, because generally this is understood to be the one that rose up in the line of the Seleucid kings, and they were over Syria and modern-day Israel and that area. And the Seleucid kings, it was Antiochus was the fellow's name, and he rose up, and he had the brilliant idea in his mind that he was going to have his kingdom be united. You can just see the stupidity of secularism in our own day, it reflected in this, or this reflected in what's going on. His idea was if we get